Get your tickets now for the 23rd annual edition of the OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival happening April 23rd to May 2nd. Don't miss our incredible grand opening drive-in event followed by 10 days of non-stop films from here and all around the world that you can watch at home. Watch trailers and get your tickets at OUTshineFilm.com now.
Hello, everybody. This is Victor Jimenez. I'm your Executive Director for the OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival, 23rd Annual Miami Edition. On behalf of the board and volunteers, welcome. We are presented by Gilead and Miami-Dade County, and we're very excited today for this virtual Q&A for the Extinction of Fireflies. We have many great people that are part of this film, and they're going to join us right now. So first, let's bring in writer, director, James Andrew Walsh. James, welcome.
Hello. Hi, thank you.
Next,
Nice
we have executive producer Kimberly Schesser.
Hi.
Then we have actor Drew Droege.
Hey, everybody.
Tracy Bennett.
Yay.
Yay.
And Cario Marcel. Welcome,
He's
everybody.
here.
So let's get this started. Actually, the first question will be to James. You know, you're the writer director of this film, and when I was actually watching it, I was watching. It's like, wow, this just is very theatrical. This seems like it's a play, and of course, then I read the capsule for the film after I watch it. I'm like, well, it's based on your play. So can you tell us the genesis of the idea and the creation of the play, and then turning it into a movie?
Sure. Last year around this time, as I was telling you earlier, I was in rehearsal for a national tour of a piece that I had done and directed in New York that I played at the Public Theater. And we were about to go on a national tour starting in, of all places, Miami. And at that same time, I finished writing the sequel to the play that comes before this play, which was called Jimmy and Carolyn, which was in New York several years ago. And this is the sequel in a trilogy of 3 plays, The Extinction of Fireflies. And it was my intention when I finished this play that I would start shopping around to artistic directors and programmers at different theaters on the West Coast in New York that I knew about presenting either a solid stage reading or, based on the success of the previous play, Jimmy and Carolyn in New York, possibly a full production. And of course, COVID came along and I wound up not going on the national tour because the whole tour was canceled. And I came back to Rhode Island with my play. And I started getting it out with a few artistic directors, and it became very clear to me quickly that there wasn't going to be any theater for a while, and that, you know, what was I going to do with material I had spent so much time working on? And so I decided that I would explore the idea of, since the play was set in my home and that a production designer, in this case Kristen Vallow, whom we adore, would basically do a set based on my house, why not use my house as a kind of set for the piece? And then that, of course, led to, well, why don't we film it as a kind of, you know, Wednesday play type Playhouse 90 presentation of the material. And then I sent it to Tracy, whom I met through a mutual friend at a wedding at Christmas at the top of the world. The National Theater in the Folly. She was superb in Escalada. She read it, she loved it. She's the perfect person. I had not imagined an English actress playing that part, but suddenly it gave me this, you know, a different way of looking at it. I sent it to Drew. I'm a big fan of Drew's. I met Drew on New Year's Eve in Palm Springs a couple of years ago doing Chloe, and Drew loved it. And basically one thing fell into place, and the next thing you know, we were in pre-production on a movie that was going to shoot in the middle of a global pandemic in my living room. So things just sort of, you know, the Mickey and Judy of it all, I guess, is really what took the play from, you know, finishing it as a play to here we are today. So it was really just my desire to do something with material I had spent so much time working on.
Excellent. And then how, and this question's to you and Kimberly, like how did you two meet and form your partnership? Like, you know, Kimberly, you're the executive producer on the film. How did you guys get involved with each other for the film? I think I remember you, James, saying that you've been actually working with Kimberly for like 25 years, which I can't believe based on Kimberly right now. I think you meant to say like 12 years. But how did you guys start working with each other, and then also like and talk about the working relationship with this specific film in general? Oh, wait, Kimberly, you're muted. Hold on one second. Sorry about that.
There. How's that?
Yeah.
Well, James and I actually met 20 years ago, exactly, doing a national tour of Ragtime. We're performers, we're actors, and I've worked with him in a number of capacities in recent years. I assistant directed the New York City premiere of the play that he was taking on tour. And we've just known each other for years, and we are always looking for a way to work together and to create something. And you know, he sent me an email and was like, "Let's do a movie." And I was like, we're in a pandemic, right? And he was like, "Yeah, I think we can do it." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So James never ceases to see an obstacle and completely change his direction 180 and create something new. That's one of the vast and many reasons I love James so much and enjoy working with him.
Thank you. Sometimes I my own obstacles, which is a problem.
And then, you know, Tracy, you know, James mentioned how I think he saw you like up on top of the tower and all that, like, and he never envisioned a British actress in this role. But I want to tell you that I absolutely loved you in this role. And I mean, you came there, I'm like, I couldn't think of anybody else. Like once you started acting, I was like, I cannot picture anybody else actually doing the role. What did you think of the role when you read it? And also just like, you want me to go to your house in a pandemic to actually do this role now? You know, elaborate on that.
Well, there was the challenge, and I had met James, as I'd said, and you know, I was in all my finery when I met him because it was a big wedding, and it was, I was psyched to be there, and I was there alone, and so that was great. And then again, like he said, I was playing Carlotta at the National in Follies, and we had a big chat on the balcony with red wine, copious amounts, and then that was that, really. He was just touching base from that time of our friend's wedding. And then a couple of years later, I guess, he said, "What do you think of this play? Maybe some feedback would be good." And I never imagining for a minute, you know, that he might be thinking of me. And so I read it immediately. And I think you offered me another one, James, didn't you, in the first play? But we'd worked out for the first time that I was actually
the other play you would play my mother. So it didn't,
right. So I was like, I'm a bit young for this, whereas usually it's the other way around. Yeah, I'm too old, right? So I was appreciative of that. And so I read it, and I'd said what I thought, and I'd hoped he would appreciate the kind of, not bluntness of it, but the truth of it, of what I could possibly offer. And then he said, "Well, I'm thinking of maybe using you to play Charlotte." And I was like, "Oh, let me just go back and read it again." I didn't like that. So I did. And you know what? I mean, this is the honest truth. And I'm closing my eyes because I need to focus, because I've just spotted that my bed is in shot. I'm like, really, girl? Oh, God. I'm actually staying in digs because I'm working on something else. So I'm not in London in my flat. I'm at somebody else's lovely house. So thank you to them. So anyway, yeah, I read it again with that thought in mind, and it was just as good, you know. Sometimes you worry, but this is me. If somebody has the faith in you to go there and ask, I want to work with that person, whoever they are, you know, because why not, for one, and for two, if they think you can do it. And it was kind of similar age group, obviously. I was up for the challenge, you know, and I've talked to people and they've all said, oh yeah, but it's a pandemic, you know, and everybody's grateful for just anything. And I'm like, no, this is a quality cast as well that he was thinking. And I knew James to be pedantic and disciplined and, you know, very challenging with the brain. And I wanted to play good tennis with a good tennis player. And I liked the fact that he knew more than all of us really about this particular piece and his kind of first one and then this one. So I like being brave and I like to take risks. I mean, I was scared and I had to quarantine coming from London, you know, for two weeks on my own. So I kind of thought about it and I was just thrilled. And I could go on, but, you know, there's other people that you have to question. It was just brilliant being in Rhode Island. I'm sorry about your bugs in America. They don't work for me. Jiminy Cricket is great, but when you see one this big on your curtains in your room, no, babe. Drew, help me out. I'm a total arachnophobic, babe. No. This was that, wasn't it, Drew? To me.
Huge.
Oh my God.
Huge. There was one night that we stayed at a beautiful mansion down the street from James's lovely house. We got to go work in two beautiful locations, and there were bugs and giant. You know, it was September, but still, and there was a cricket monster on Tracy. No, we were talking. We were I was in your doorway, and you were and I saw it behind you, and I knew you were scared of bugs, and I was like, "How am I going to get this thing away?" And then we did take it outside, I believe. I don't think we killed it, or maybe we did kill that one.
Because I'm on it. As soon as somebody goes, I'm like, "What is it? And where is it?"
And that happened a lot. Even sometimes I'd have a thought, and I'd be lost in thought, and you would think there'd be a flying Mothra behind you. It was just, I
attract them. I have bad bug karma.
Oh, wow, that's so Costa Rica might be out for you.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Might be.
I mean, that aside.
But let's say it's probably good that this Q&A is virtual and not actually in Miami, since we have the subtropical also.
Right.
We're known for our big bugs as well. Drew, your actual performance was really good for me because like I said, you're actually a very familiar face to the LGBT audience with all the work that you've done and the films you've been in, and the short films and series. And I have to tell you, like, when I was watching the film, I'm like, wait, is that Drew? And the way you performed, and there was something familiar about it, but also just something different. You also came across just like older than what you are. Like you definitely
thank you.
Came across more world weariness. Like what really attracted you as a performer to this role? Like was there like a certain scene that you read in the script that you're like, I really want this role? Like, do tell.
Oh, thank you. First of all, I similar to Tracy, like I was so touched that James had the faith in me for this, because when he also sent me Jimmy and Carolyn to read his first play to read, and we were going to do a reading, and we were sort of back and forth on it, and I loved that play as well. And then when he sent me Extinction of Fireflies and said, what about this one? It was still kind of like we were going to do a reading. It was just like let's get it out there. And I always felt like, I don't know if this is me. I don't know if this part is me. It is. He was a little bit older, and also, you know, the drama of it. And do I have the gravity to do something like this? And yet I wanted to do it so badly. So I was really scared of it. And then the very first scene between James and Jay, played by the fabulous and wonderful Michael Urie, you know, but I read that and I loved how it clipped along. And then Michael and I read it out loud with James, and I loved how it played, and then I really wanted it. And it's that thing as an actor, and then you don't hear back for a while, and you're like, oh no, now I really, really, really want to do this. So, it's, you know, it's like the thing of like, I don't know if this is me, and then you're like, oh no, I have to do this. And then the scene with Cario with the being vulnerable. I love that scene, and I love that I was so nervous to take my shirt off. I've never been asked to do that, or to be so naked in so many ways that I was just happy for the opportunity, and it was really magical to get to do that. Very romantic to get to go, you know, especially in the middle of pandemic where you're like sitting on your couch, you know, but just to go into a new space with 3 other tremendous actors and these incredible. I think we had a tiny crew of, I don't know how many, but a very small crew of just everybody was just there for a month to make the thing, and I just loved how it all unfurled, and so I was very happy to get to do it. And you know.
So real quick, because you mentioned Michael Urie, and I just got to mention this. So I'm going to show a quick image, and there's Michael. He's holding up the coloring book with the unicorns, and the reason why I want to share that, you know, in the end, there's a picture of one of the drawings he colored in, and you're not going to believe this, but literally Saturday, I was at a neighbor's house. They have 2 girls, and I was there with my husband and my 2 kids. And I kid you not, they had the exact same colored in page, like on their wall in their playroom.
Wow.
Amazing.
Amazing. It's so amazing you froze.
Oh, okay, I was like, did I freeze? I'm not sure.
It's so amazing. Joe! Victor froze.
You're muted, Joe.
Uh-oh.
Does he realize?
Oh, there he is.
Oh yeah, I'm back. Yes, thank you.
Oh, now
well,
again.
Well, you know, I love that picture. Can you put that picture up just one more time? Because I love Tracy's expression in that picture.
Yeah.
Literally looking down her nose.
Interject my own story, put a picture in, and I mess up everybody. So, Cario, question for you. We know that Tracy was met in top of a tower. Drew was in Palm Springs. How did you meet James, and how did you get involved with the film?
I went the very traditional route. I got an email from my agent and read the script, and I prepared for it because I was like, this is amazing, and getting to work at that time on anything was really exciting, but specifically then something that would be really challenging and compelling and complex. It was kind of like a dream come true in so many ways. So then, yeah, I went through an audition process and then met James and Kimberly for the first time, just like this. We've come full circle. And then through that, so yeah, we had a few Zoom rehearsals where we got to kind of do some table work, but didn't actually meet in person for the first time until I got to Rhode Island, which was an oasis. It was beautiful. I got to go kayaking. I mean, the parallels of my character, maybe I went a little bit overboard with, because I did go kayaking on the ocean and went to the beach in the mornings and kind of just like frolicked around as much as I could, because I was like, I gotta get as much of this as I can. Yeah.
You know, Drew touched on it, and this is to James and the actors. There was actually a lot of vulnerable moments for all the actors involved in this, not only just in terms of like retrospection, but like physically exposing yourself on screen, and also just like realizations characters have about themselves or that other people make to them. I mean, just going around, I guess starting with James, and then we can just loop around to everybody. Like, you know, this was a powerful script in terms of people's self-discovery and just vulnerability. Like, you know, let's, I guess, hatch more into that. How was it for you, all of you, the actors, to expose yourselves both physically and emotionally to this role? And James, to you, to like creating these characters. I mean, I think all three actors had a moment here where like you were both physically and then also later emotionally exposed. Like, you know, James, I guess, you know, you start and just tell us, like, you know, where were you coming from in these, like, these key moments for these characters?
Well, it was very clear to me that if we were going to do this, we were going to form not only sort of a COVID pod, but like a creative pod. And the housing that Kimberly and I secured for the actors is a really exquisite turn of the century, you know, Victorian stone mansion. And I thought, you know, they're going to be living together. They're going to be working with us up the street. The set is this house, etc. I realized that for this concept to really work, which is sort of the first production under what I'm calling When All the World's a Stage, which is a subsidiary of my production company, Road Trip Pictures, that we were going to be living together and experiencing the place, which is very important to the story. So I wanted to create an environment where what they were experiencing as actors in the world outside of the set, they could bring right onto the set, that there were no barriers. And we had a very collaborative process. We took the script apart. We rehearsed for 3 weeks before we brought a single camera or anything in, and we really worked on the piece. And I pride myself on being open to changes, suggestions. I'm not obstinate about what I want to change, what I don't want to change. So I think by allowing the actors to really find themselves in this material, they really found themselves in the material. So things that might be scary or vulnerable, make an actor feel very vulnerable, I feel that they became, there was an urgency to actually doing those things. There was an ease to doing those things. There was a looking forward to doing those things, because I think each actor found himself or herself, in the case of Tracy, in the part physically, mentally, and psychologically in a way that things that might be overly, vulnerable or very sensitive, for example, taking off your shirt, that seemed to come very natural to them by the time we were done rehearsing for 3 weeks in this place. So I followed their lead. I don't think it's good for a director to ever force people to do something they don't want to do. And I think you have to get actors to a position where they want to do the things, they want to be able to take off their shirt. And like Drew said about feeling very vulnerable and never, right? I think in the excitement of wanting to do that, he discovered, and this, I'm gonna cry just talking about that scene, he found such an exquisite vulnerability in that moment. And I think that's great acting, when you allow yourself to express in that way. So what could have been an obstacle, I think ultimately something the actors wanted to do, and they understood it in the spirit of being in a safe environment.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Tracy, to you, your character, you're an actress of a certain age. You're coming in there, you're trying to stay, with it, with your Instagram followers and your posts and all that. And then, but your character is also very free with herself. We're introduced to her and you become topless. But then by the end of the film, it's for like it's not exactly a full Sunset Boulevard moment there, but you have certain realizations, like
pixel there.
as an actress bringing this role to the fore.
Yeah, you pixeled there a bit, so I didn't hear the latter bit. Sorry.
Oh no, the like how was it doing this role with all the vulnerability?
Oh, I see. Okay. First of all, it was difficult, in my humble opinion, because she was kind of selfish. So the layers that we discussed where, you know, she never paid for anything. Her I don't know if she was older, and so therefore it was like sacrosanct that I think this and that, and I'm telling you this, you know, all that. But of course, by being a creative, if you like, by definition, I suppose, of being an actress, there were always going to be, it was always going to have a story behind it all. And so it's complex to talk about, but yet strangely simple. But it's just hard to tell you the process of it without monopolizing. I mean, me and Drew used to talk till, you know, late at night, didn't we?
Yeah.
You know, we'd talk about our vulnerabilities and yet stick to the script, but yet say, well, what would you do with this? And what would I do with that? So that, you know, thank God we were all living together for that reason. But I don't think actors should, you know, ever be scared of the vulnerabilities, because that's what makes characters not flawed, but just open yourself, you know, the gut-wrenching open yourself. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, you know, the nudity didn't make me vulnerable, because in real life, because I'm an ex-dancer, and so we just were, you know, in the ballet companies, just all walking around like that. That didn't bother me. My age has never bothered me, luckily, because I kind of get it, you know. And if they go, if a casting agent or a director goes to my agent, we need Tracy to be like not beautiful and saggy, or, you know, how do you play that? You either just do it or you don't. And it's all incorporated. I might not be making sense, but in Charlotte's case, she was free, freer than I'll ever be. But she knew James, the character. She knew him from before. She's been through certain things with him. So again, when James at the end, the character, asks her, why are we friends? It kind of stumps her, because of all that they've been through. She was an activist, you know, she was an activist because the studio wouldn't employ gay actors. So she tried to do everything she could, maybe to the detriment of her own career. And so all those vulnerabilities are there, but there's a hardened shell of, how do I survive this? Everybody, like you say, in the film has got these moments of like vulnerability, be it, you know, they're what their parents have told them or whatever. But she's survived and she's quite hardened. Well, maybe it did touch on a nerve with her about the kids not having children, and maybe she is just kind of veneering stuff, and that's what's difficult as an actress, to veneer a character on a veneer that is maybe confused herself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I found that, I'm not saying I hit it, but that's why, you know, you always want to do these parts for that vulnerable entity and for that hardened thing, and actually the complex thing that you don't just want to play one dimension. Now, whether you do that or not is up to other people to decide. But certainly James had it all in the writing, and we tried to help each other as actors with that, because we all liked, if you don't mind me saying, guys, to bring something to the table, maybe the day, and James would always go, yeah, or go, well, not so, and then he'd direct us as a director would into the right place. But there was millions and millions of chats before that. Whether it wasn't used or not is irrelevant. What was relevant was the fact that we could have choices, and that was the luxury, thanks to Kimberly and the, you know, producing, and James and people who put money in, whatever, that we could do that. Sorry, I'm waffling, aren't I?
No.
It's all good.
You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Drew, for you and Cario, you know, one of your great scenes together was actually the one, Drew, you mentioned where you were like vulnerable. which is with your shirt off and the whole scenario. But what was kind of interesting for me, seeing that role is like probably until that moment, your character James was very defensive of Callisto, Cario's character, and that was the moment that night where it kind of like changed. And I guess let's go into that scene in particular because. I guess Drew, you exposing yourself and the vulnerability, you basically you as a character became stronger, and then Cario, just go into the whole. I guess go to the development of that scene, both of you, and do share how it was like for those characters and you as actors performing that scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so. I love the shift that happened in the show. It's like at the beginning, you think that Jay and I are close. We have a past, but I'm sort of kind of swiping at him. And as it sort of, and then Charlotte and James are like old friends. We go way back. And I feel like the way I always saw the character of James is that he's very defensive. He has walls up. He's shut down. He's shut a lot of, he's shut down his sexuality. He's shut down meeting new people. He has very strong opinions. So when he meets this new young hot boyfriend of Jay, who you find out he doesn't really like Jay that much either, he's of course going to be like, oh, you brought this hot thing to parade around. So I'm very, I have walls up big time around Callisto. And it's the moment where Callisto's the opposite of all of those things. And he opens me up in a way that I'm not expecting. I'm in a very vulnerable place because my friends have insulted my play. I feel completely alone in my own house. I'm drunk. I just, the last person I want to see is this guy and he ends up changing me. And then I think Callisto ends up being the heart of the piece. He's the one that these three people have. It makes sense that in a sense, like we're all kind of fireflies around him, and that we all like want to be around that energy because the three of us have lost it, I think, in some way. And so it was great. And then that scene for me was, we were outside, it was freezing cold. And I remember there was a drunk neighbor in the yard that James had to run across the yard and ask a neighbor to be quiet. And there were coyotes and owls, I believe, some animal, some howling animal. And yet we had to do it in one take pretty much. And so it was very delicate. But I don't know. It was a really great experience. Because I don't ever get to just sit and be. I come in to like do the bits. When I'm lucky and get cast in something on, especially in a film or TV, it's like I'm on usually for a day. We need somebody to come in and be funny in a scene and leave. And this was like, just live, just breathe, just have, and I loved that opportunity and that experience.
Cario, for you, your character was interesting to me because I think you actually had a very difficult challenge. In other words, everyone's talking about your character for a while, and you have an expectation of this character, and then the character is there, right? And then you as the new person coming into this pre-existing group have to, you have to meet this expectation now the audience now basically has, and then also deliver. And then, and quite frankly, the surprising thing about the Callisto character is that he is an F up, right? And then, how was that for you? You had a particular challenge. Experience as an actor and what you brought to that role.
Yeah, I think that is such a fascinating kind of Reddit there. I was kind of worried about that idea of like meeting those expectations of how we hear about him before he comes in. And then through the rehearsal process and kind of talking with James, we kind of really talked about like what is it actually like when, like, do we meet those expectations, or is it when we really kind of talk about other people, are we really kind of more just talking about does that have more to do with ourselves than actually the other person? And I think throughout the film for Callisto, he's constantly, I mean, he comes in with his excitement to meet James based off of just what he's heard and what he's read, and through that alone, he has kind of, it's in a different way. I don't know if he has specific expectations as opposed to like, I have to meet the person who wrote this. But yeah, it's constantly throughout the film kind of, then, you know, the scene with Tracy and I kind of reading the play and opinions about each other, and then when are those opinions shifted, and then getting to do that again with Drew was so great. Getting to kind of piggybacking off of what Tracy was saying earlier about the kind of joy of living together was that we be in rehearsal, work on these scenes, and then all walk down the road together and be sitting around the dinner table, literally just kind of talking about these scenes again, or then like going, you know, sitting outside while during the sunset and talking about these scenes some more, and kind of asking about earlier, so that in the scene with Drew and I, the we've kind of been playing in this way for so long that then it's like, can we find something new even on this take? Can we go even deeper on this next one? Can I have my perception shifted yet again, just to see what we could find? And so I think having that sense of trust enabled that sense of vulnerability, which by proxy then like just boosted my level of curiosity about the process and these people and these characters.
Yeah. Thank you. COVID pandemic at the height of it, like, what were some of the, you know, interesting, I'm sure there were quite many challenges of the whole thing? You know, like Tracy actually made a comment, you know, I had to fly in and then I was in quarantine by myself for 2 weeks. Like, I mean, you know, how crazy was your role in this production of this film to
are a ton of obstacles in normal life. But for this one, you know, the idea that you have to keep, you know, there's a protocol about who gets tested when, how many days a week they get tested, can they come on the set, or can they her test didn't come back?
Yeah.
And so I showed up at the house and I was like, Tracy, let's do some makeup. Because we're trying to keep a small company and keep everyone as safe as possible. So, you know, it was weird that those were the the things that arose. But I will say, and in listening to all of these completely amazing actors, and they rolled with the punches, and you know, I couldn't be more grateful for my first executive producing credit to be with those 4 folks. They were just, they're amazing. I mean, they really are gifted and talented actors, but they're also
me, oh, me.
Meat props. We're just meat props, just animals. Basic
It was a
instinct.
panic though at one point, because you just, all of us have such passion to get it right, and then you torture yourself going, it's not good enough for me, and I'm going to let the side down, you know, all those things that we all go through. And the passion and the creativity comes from 4 different ends, when you're all so most, because of your own selfishness within the characters, you know. So it was like to forward to that with the play. It was fascinating. Here and in the terrors of the night at 5 o'clock, and you're up in like half an hour, you know, and every hour you've kept your eye on the clock, terrified to let it down. The faith, and thank God Kimberly was strong producer, and yeah, and to go shut up, and then all right.
Kimberly would never do that. Kimberly spelled L-Y.
No,
But I know what you mean.
But just
Right.
come on, it was a very lovely discipline of time, because that's it. The sun's going down. You need to take it and tape it now. You know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true, because James was so collaborative, and it was, you know, it was a new play, and we were figuring it out. And I don't know that when he put the 4 of us together, if he knew that he had 4, like, also, like, we were like, try this, and
no, that's the wrong choice. Let's
right.
we go.
I mean,
Well, at least we talked about it.
Well,
Yeah,
the
but-
reality is that, you know, the 4 actors have one thing in common aside from talent. They're all brilliant people, and so, you know, even just on an intellectual level, you know, when people are doing their homework and really, you know, thinking about it, and I can't imagine inviting 4 actors to spend a month on your street, living up the street and rehearsing and working your house, not being collaborative. I mean, I knew that would be
James, sorry,
so,
but thanks to you and Kimberly and you know, others, that house, I mean, we were lucky. We could all go off into our own little sections of it and go, I'm having a sulk. I can't do this speech, so I'm going to have a think. And we all said that to each other. It was like we shared the food, we shared the money, we shared the moods, you know, and we were very careful to go, oh, stop it, or yeah, let's do it. You don't have that luxury a lot of the time. And this pandemic. This is pandemic where you know, I'm not going like genuflect, but it is extraordinary to have 3 weeks rehearsals, wouldn't you say, guys?
Absolutely.
You know, especially on film. I mean, now you
never get that.
You could have been better then. I'm no Meryl, you know, but we had that luxury, didn't we? In shopping.
Says who, Tracy?
And then we'd have a few drinks with the guys because they knew exactly when we'd got tired and worried, but it was only for the good. And you will get those, not moods or arguments, but you'll get those touchy moments because we want to do a good job. Right?
Yeah. I never doubted for 1 second that you all would deliver. I never doubted for 1 second, not 1 second. So it's also easy to know that when you're on the other side of the camera, you know, you're watching, you know, it's much easier. But, you know, and the other fun, interesting thing too, as the director, I just wanted to say this, is that if I learned one thing, Kimberly, I think we talked about this in this whole thing, make sure there's coffee and half in the refrigerator when all the actors show up.
Only that. Coffee in the morning.
Tracy gave me the most beautiful coffee from Harrods, and I brought it here, and we didn't put anything in their refrigerator. Kimberly, that was a horrible mistake. They showed up with nothing in the refrigerator. And then the first day of rehearsal, I went down and said, I'd love a cup of coffee. And Tracy was like, you would now, would you? Now, why don't you bring the coffee that I brought?
Yeah.
Well, I learned that one lesson. And the other thing I was going to say that I think is, I often think this gets, you know, I've been on both sides of the camera as an actor, as the director, the writer, the whole thing. Actors who are good actors, certain scenes, I'm not talking about method acting here, they're in the scene, they're in the moment, they're on set in that world of that scene. They don't have to be anything other than what they're supposed to be in that scene. You know, I think directors get into trouble when it, you know, each one of these actors had a difficult moment, and it, you know, it bled through while we were doing, you know, the work. It's supposed to, you know, it's supposed to. So I think I understand actors well, and I know the anxiety, and I wish there was some way that I could communicate to actors, stop worrying about it. You're doing great, you know, but I guess that's impossible, right? I mean, it doesn't, that's the profession.
You just have to adjust, don't you?
Yes. And I just want to say one other thing about Cario, if I just could. You know, that was a very difficult role to cast, Callisto, because, you know, in a gay film like this, you know, here comes the hot, that character is minstrelized as much as the James character can be minstrelized. And when we met Cario, I have to say, I was so deeply touched by Cario's commitment and understanding of this part, you know, the innocence, you know, beneath that, you know, and I really have to say everyone nailed their characters and brought things to the characters I never even imagined. But I have to say, on behalf of a gay filmmaker, Cario, I really appreciate that you found a very nuanced way of being that person, of being an object of desire and affection, you know, and I'll never forget.
It would not have been possible without all of you.
And I will never forget watching you curl up. Do you remember you used to curl up on the patio like a little cat in the sun? Do you remember doing that?
Yes.
Do you do that often, or is it just here? Because that was such a
but I will always find my sunspot. I will always find my little sunspot. So, because, yeah. But also, like, how on your property, it's very easy to find.
Curl up. How tall are you, Cario? May I ask?
I'm 6'1". Yeah, I'm a big.
You're one of these people you can curl up in tight space, and suddenly you're the giant. I will never forget you curling up on the in the little spot of sun. Do you all remember that? Am I the only one who remembers that? Oh yeah.
Well, I will give me 5 minutes and I will become unconscious and like find a way to take a nap in a great little place. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, you know, you're all welcome back this summer. We're going to do a reunion. You have to come for a week and we'll go to the beach. And
Yes, please.
when are you? You're going to be here in June? We've totally taken over this Q&A. I'm sorry. You're going to be here. I'm sorry.
Be strong.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was actually going to say that we're ending in such a great love fest. I think this is the perfect moment to actually end the Q&A with you inviting everyone to your house in June for a reunion. We have it on tape here, so I'll put it out to my audience too. So you'll have a big party in Rhode Island. You know,
we'll have like an Extinction of Fireflies con kind of a deal, right?
Right, but I want to go to Miami. I've been there twice. And when is the festival? What are the dates again?
They're April 23rd through May 2nd.
Oh, we're all
right.
Okay.
But it's all good. Well, I want to say a big thank you from behalf of the festival, our audience, our patrons, our board, for all of you giving up your time today to be part of this virtual Q&A. It was a great Q&A. It went by fast. It was humorous. We learned a lot. And I really hope, I enjoyed your film. It was a very well-written film. It was a superbly acted film. And I'm positive my audience appreciated it also. And I hope, I hope you guys had a great time today during the Q&A as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
See all you guys. Oh my God.
Charlotte. Now I recognize her.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out how I knew this person. Now I do.
and on that note, I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer for the film. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. I love you guys. I love you so much. Bye-bye.
I find in my life nothing more than a shapeless mass.
And the inglorious, but safe shit. Something about a dull life.
You're paraphrasing, Jay. I really need you to get this right.
It's hard. I'm trying.
It's in the writing.
Is it? I don't get it, to be honest.
Okay, just use my words.
Speak slowly. Betty Davis.
Yeah, it took her 20 years to learn how to speak slowly. Yes.
Jay, mulch, as in the ground cover.
Charlotte, Christian, as in the religion. Smoke.
Is feeling the testosterone drain out of your body on a daily basis all good?
They make testosterone boosters.
That's why you wrote this Russian novel of a play, to romanticize your personal crisis as an aging gay man, as seen through the eyes of a 2nd century Roman emperor and his 14-year-old boy toy.
These thoughts, I hear these words just flying, just spewing, just like, projectile vomiting.
No, you did that on purpose, you idiot!
Mayday, mayday, stop talking. Everybody's gonna think you're nuts.
Use it in your play.